Today on Stay Visionary Podcast, we're talking to Vincent A. Shang, a globally minded attorney based in Los Angeles whose practice spans cross-border corporate law, international business disputes, real estate, labor, and immigration law, with clients from around the world with multilingual fluency and a history advising international corporations and foreign investors. Vincent brings a rare global legal perspective to business and compliance. Welcome, Vincent.
It's an honor to be here, Ed.
Hey, so Vincent, what drove you to pursue law, and how did you discover your interests in cross-border international business law? What drew you to that?
My family immigrated from Taiwan to the United States, and they built everything from the ground up. That was an inspiration to join law, to make a difference, especially for people of color and minorities and their misunderstandings or slow accommodations to the U.S. lifestyle. And it's something I've been consulted on recently by individuals who are enrolled in universities, colleges, etc., because of the changing socioeconomic atmosphere. Because some people just don't understand U.S. laws, and it's happened often when other companies open subsidiaries or take over other companies in the United States without understanding securities, the SEC, taxes, and the IRS, especially when they contact me about defense for these issues. When I don't know if they use in-house counsel or they contract with the US firms. It's just very different. For example, when I went back to Taiwan, I learned that unlike California, where you can make a right turn on a red light, you cannot make a right turn on a red light unless it's protected in Taiwan. So some individuals will speed up at yellow lights to safely for their cars to make it before it turns red. I learned that the hard way when one car ran over my foot. It was not the best experience, but it was interesting nevertheless.
I would say. So I have seen you understand multiple languages: Mandarin, Chinese, Korean, and Spanish. Is that correct?
Yes, that is correct.
How did that play in shaping your career and really opening up global opportunities, I would say?
Practically, it shaped my opportunities because some ethnicities, like people who actually speak their language, especially if they have trouble retaining firms where they have difficulties communicating with the attorneys because of the language barrier. This was very common in insurance defense because some ethnicities have more car accidents based upon my experiences, or when international companies enter into the US from a long time ago and they just don't understand the laws, as I previously mentioned. And sometimes when these companies enter into contracts with American companies, they simply do not understand the full extent of the contracts, especially when a US company has a choice of venue for a certain state and for a certain law. And then the international company gets sued based upon breaches of those contracts.
So are you mostly representing the US firms or more so like foreign firms coming in and buying businesses or trying to do business in the US?
There's approximately an equal amount because of my business litigation history with a firm called Grant, Genovese and Barada. We defended an American landlord, a U.S. landlord based in California, against mortgage companies, if you remember the mortgage crisis. And we also defended individuals who invested in Bernard Madoff's pyramid scheme. I could use the name Bernard Madoff because not as many people may remember Bernie Madoff. That
Yes.
was an interesting situation in and of itself. So I represent companies from both sides and from globally, as well as some governments with international matters between other countries. If I'm licensed in that state or country, if
How
I'm
many
not,
states are you licensed then?
currently just one,
Just California?
just California.
Okay. So I would assume, like you said, Chicago or something like that. You kind of middleman it you have to hire somebody in that state to
And
help you
yes,
finish the deal.
someone in that jurisdiction, or I might refer clients to other firms like Zuber Lawler and maybe Gordon Reese. It just depends on the nature of the matter and whether they have any conflicts of interest with that client, because I've encountered that issue as well.
All right. And as someone who has managed complex multinational clients and multi domain legal issues, how do you balance the demands and what keeps you grounded?
I balance the demands. Like I said, I won't be working tomorrow. There is no annual billable number of hours for me because if a client is overseas and they're 16 hours ahead, or if they're, for example, in Asia or Europe, I had one client who was located in California and he wanted to open a company in Spain, an LLC. So since I speak Spanish, I contacted the lawyers slash abogados there, and they informed me that it was a much more complicated process. And since I'm not licensed there, I referred him to the abogados or lawyers that I met there. I'm definitely not licensed in Spain. I don't know about studying for a bar
Yeah,
examination, moving there for one test, or visiting for one test,
yeah,
and then maybe passing.
yeah. That's quite. I mean, it does kind of give you an advantage, though, being able to speak, especially like Mandarin, and because you're well aware of the amount of business is going back and forth, and to be able to know both English and even like Spanish too gives you, I would think, a definitely advantage over somebody who just speaks English or just speaks Mandarin, so on and so forth.
With one important caveat though, when I do business, whether at my firm or Raintree Law Firm, all of the conversations are usually done in English because that just seems to be the universal language, especially for business, given the history of the world.
Well, yeah, that's good for us, and it helps. So you're when you're traveling and you're always somehow somewhere somebody knows a little bit, at least a little bit of English usually. When you launched your law firm, Shang Law Firm, what
Mhm.
was your vision and what gap in the legal market were you aiming to fill?
I was aiming to fill an international legal market because some of the clients that I got were from the international legal market at the past firms, and there was no way to carry these clients, especially as an associate, into these firms. And when the firms did not have knowledge of their specific legal issues, so they exceeded some of these firms, or as an associate, I had no power to bring these clients into the firm. For example, working at an insurance defense firm like Tharp and Howe, it was hard to actually bring some of these clients in. Or when I volunteered at a nonprofit in Orange County, Southern California, called Public Law Center, I saw problems that were just not being addressed because these were indigent individuals who simply could not afford attorneys. And some of them were very moving cases. And they reached out to me in 10 years or so. And I had to search through my thousands of emails to remember who these individuals were.
Well, that is very honorable of you to come in and help, because there's always, no matter where you go in society, there are some cases that just break your heart, and for you to come in and give them, especially legal help, is really honorable and to be admired.
That said, I don't take criminal cases. Some of the things I've heard are just
Yeah,
on a whole different level.
yeah,
That
I can imagine. Given your broad scope, though, what is, in your view, the biggest pain point of serving international clients under the current legal service paradigm?
I would say the general answer is globalization, because I like to see a world that functions globally without too many distractions. That's a euphemism, or strife. But in reality, that's just impossible. So taking one small step at a time that's my current, that's all I can do. But at least it's contributing to something, because I studied political science in college, and that was one of my main focuses, just how the world reacts to each other globally. But then that goes into a whole different conversation about morality, philosophy, and whether it's objective, subjective, etc. So I'll just take one small step at a time.
To always forward. How do you
Hopefully.
see AI and automation reshaping international legal practice, especially cross-border work, compliance, multilingual documentation, and of course, global client management?
I haven't seen it as much globally because we're still figuring it out in the United States. Without naming the firms, there are several firms who have used AI to cite hallucinatory or
Yes.
non-existent cases, and they've been sanctioned, disciplined, and some of them are just absolutely silent or keep it silent within the firm, even though it has been published in articles like Bloomberg Law or Above the Law. I'm less willing to try. For example, I did have a case based upon a Korean singer who stopped paying her rent and another firm in Los Angeles evicted her and won a judgment in favor of the landlord. But the singer moved back to her home country, and since I'm not licensed there, I was not able to actually pursue that case. So we retained a Korean law firm, or there goes that anonymous place. But we retained a law firm there to pursue this individual, and the laws were very similar. So they tried to serve this person by publication before this person petitioned for bankruptcy in this country. So we tried, but it was not successful. And I'm not quite sure how AI would be able to inform me about this, because I had to speak with the lawyers in that country to confirm things, and I have no power to appear because I'm definitely not licensed there. I don't know if they have pro se litigation.
That makes sense.
And then if there's bankruptcy, it's like the U.S. courts. There's state court cases and then bankruptcy, and you need a different type of admission, federal bar admission, to actually pursue actions in bankruptcy. So maybe I could have used AI to figure that out, but due to the cost to the client, it seemed more reasonable to actually just consult with a Korean law firm, with the law firm in that country. in order to resolve the matter to the client's best interest.
That makes sense. So right now, in your practice, are you using any AI tools? And if you are, how are they helping, or do you see right now it's not where you want it to be?
AI tools, both Westlaw and Lexis have AI. They're slowly creating their own separate AI programs in their research. And I have used some of the AI, but it pulls upon cases from all jurisdictions. So it's just persuasive authority. It's not binding. And then I have to make sure the cases even exist before I cite anything. So it's not as helpful because if I do all of that, I have to bill the client. And clients don't like bills if we just charge them so much money because of all the research. I mean, do you like your power bills, your electricity bills? Not as many people seem to like bills when the work can be done more effectively, but it depends on what the AI was made for, because I just saw on LinkedIn about two individuals who hypothesized that AI will cause the destruction of mankind. And they had other AI specialists comment on the same thing. And they talked about why the AI was developed. It seemed to me more for whatever the creators have in mind, as opposed to the people, general population, like the rest of us.
Interesting. You'll have to send me those articles. Would love to. I always love to hear different perspectives.
Yeah, it's very different, but I think it just goes to the whole ethical and moral obligation. And then I'm reluctant to use AI as much because I just saw a LinkedIn article this morning that talked about how college graduates are having trouble finding jobs, especially those in the computer science department, because AI is replacing most of the programming that needs to be done. I learned C++ in high school, and I talked to someone who has a PhD in AI from Harvard, and I asked them, should I even learn another programming language, Ruby, Python? And then he just told me no. So I'm wondering, should I still look into Ruby, Python, or another language between C++? If, yeah, it doesn't seem.
It's AI is coming on fast and heavy, as you know,
In certain
and there's
fields.
different uses for it. Good. You talked about ghosting, that type of thing. So it's coming whether we like it or not. And just like when the internet came, you adjust and you find different ways. And maybe some jobs are lost, but some are created, and life goes on, right?
Yes, that is absolutely correct.
So your business, give me in the next 6 to 12 months, where do you see your business growing or restructured or heading with growth, evolution? What are you aiming for?
To actually practice law in California, but sometimes when the clients reach out to me, they have matters that are just beyond my scope, which is why I sometimes have to refer the cases out. And, or if there is a conflict of interest, then I have to refer the client out, which I'm doing with some smaller firms like Tony Chain's Castellan law firm, because I've met him or other attorneys that I know. For example, Jason Yu at Snell and Wilmer, Gary Lorch at Gordon Reese, Tom Zuber at Zuber Lawler, because sometimes we, without violating any referral laws or rules of professional responsibility, then I can refer the cases to them as long as they have no conflict of interest, which is much harder for a large firm because big law, because they represent a lot more than I can possibly fathom. So it just depends on the situation, and it depends on whether some of these individuals, some of these firms can speak the language where I have to appear when there's consulting consultations done, or when these firms have to talk to other attorneys in Hong Kong or China because of the time hour difference. So it just means really no sleep for me. But if it serves the client's best interest, then it's something I'll do because it's important for the clients, at least in the legal profession. I would liken it to the medical profession because I've seen some AI that's just amazing. There's one company I've met that's using AI to detect early stages of certain cancers,
Yes.
which I think is amazing because without violating HIPAA, I've been in that situation before.
Yes. AI is definitely going to affect in a good way the medical field.
I hope so. Knocking on wood.
I feel it's going to help with definitely cancer. I read some of the research on breast cancer
Hmm.
that now the detection rate because of AI is going up, and they feel it's going to get up to like 75, 80% detection, maybe even 90 early detection.
But then I think that also neglects one important part is bedside manner. Because if you're just with the machine, and because I read that in China, I don't know if it's true. I haven't been there in a long, long time, that they're setting up kiosks where people can get a diagnosis in minutes and they're prescribed something. And we know that certain drugs, certain prescriptions that are not over the counter cause addictions.
Absolutely.
I think that's an important regulation to have because certain celebrities have just been very open about their misuse. And I think there was a large lawsuit against one family for their contribution to a large addiction problem in the United States. And I don't think these machines can distribute fentanyl or meth, but I've seen people who met one person. This person did not finish seventh grade because it was the first time this person tried meth. And so I ended up defending her. And when the judge defending her on a partial basis because she was ultimately assigned a public defender, when the case came up before the judge looked at the file, shook his head, and said, "There's no chance for this person, is there?" And then he just released this person, and then her parents sent her to, and this person's parents sent her to another country where this drug is illegal. And I haven't followed up since. So there's so many ethical questions about the use of AI that to expand it globally, where there may be less regulations, is a very touchy,
Yes.
precarious ground because we don't have as many regulations in AI, which is similar to Bitcoin. Because I've seen Bitcoin, I think they've had ups and downs in the price recently. And I see a lot of firms starting Bitcoin departments, but that's how they do things. I just don't ask questions.
There's good and bad in everything, including AI. It's exciting times, though. A lot of changes, and
Hmm.
you got to be, try to positive mindset that in the end it's going to work out and it's going to be a positive influence on society. Is there anything you want? Like, where can people reach you?
They can reach me on LinkedIn or on the Raintree website.
Vincent, thank you so much for sharing your global perspective and insights you've gained throughout your legal career. This was a powerful conversation, and we appreciate you being part of the Stay Visionary podcast. Don't forget to subscribe, like, and share this episode with anyone passionate about innovation, leadership, and the future of intelligent automation. I'm Ed Moran, and as always, stay visionary.